All right. Welcome back to the podcast. For the viewers at home, we just came off hot on a discussion about the death penalty and telephone scammers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How was your week?
Uh well, I worked and then I came home, jerked it a little and pretty much repeated for the last 7 days. Dude, I need to get one of those fucking like little blue light fly things that go in the wall because I've there's somehow just a shit there's just like gnats in my apartment. I don't know
Oh, I
where they
thought you were
come
talking
from
about
because
like
I
getting
don't
bisexual lighting for your room.
know.
Yeah.
No. The only no.
Yeah.
No. God. Um But no, I don't know where these little fucking gnats are coming from because I don't go outside and the door hasn't been opened in weeks. So there hasn't been like all of the air in my apartment has come either into or out of the HVAC system.
Yeah, they do get inside there though.
That's fucked up.
I mean, I had to kill a 2.5 inch long cockroach the other day, so
Yeah.
um
Holy shit. Steam machine Steam page. $1,040 and $1,050 for the 512 gigabyte version. 1,120. Dude, I'm so fucking pissed. Can we cycle back to the I hate taxes?
yeah, I
I hate taxes. I don't want to say on the internet how much money I make, but it's I don't like it's enough to hate
you make
taxes.
significantly more than me, and I think I hate taxes more than you do because I'm in a much less advantageous bracket for that. um, yeah, so we gotta fucking. It's been an hour. We gotta push through. Do you want to talk about what we're talking about today?
Yeah, so let's see. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the old JRPG
Yes,
for the TurboGrafx CD.
also known as the
Um,
PC Engine. Um,
yes, also known as the PC Engine ROM squared. It came out in 1989.
this game
Books
is
1 and 2, the first two in the Ys series, Ys as in YS. And it was honestly, it was about what I expected it to be. And we'll go further into that.
originally released in 1987, I believe, for the PC-88. It's been ported. This version has a native English translation, and of course, we are monolingual, so that is what we wanted to focus on. I remembered this game being better than it was, I think. Um, when I was deciding what we were going to do for this week, because you had done the Minecraft thing and I didn't really enjoy that, I wanted to get back at you and I wanted to pick up like an obscure video game and give it to you. And I went through a few different ones. At first, I was thinking of doing Hydlide, which is the game that inspired the original Zelda probably most directly. Also, not a great game. I was thinking of doing Dragon Slayer or Xanadu, Dragon Slayer 2, because those are also in a similar like action RPG genre, but they're actually decent. And Xanadu is famously difficult, and I wanted to give that to you and watch you soft lock yourself. But
I would have.
East was like my gateway drug into the realm of obscure Japanese video games that rarely, if ever, got translations or localizations. And I think that's
Uh,
something that's kind of lost nowadays because everything is so globalized and things get translations much more often. It's harder to find this type of not quite lost media, but just, things that very few people in the West have played. And obviously, we're playing something that was released in the West, but you know what I mean. Uh, I wanted to do that. I thought that would be a good discussion, but I don't think it. The game itself was not great.
yeah, I just kind of like baseline, and I just don't like. I was gonna like soften it up and say I'm not a big fan and give justification for that, but no, I don't like these kinds of games, and I don't have fun when I play them. So I was really
That's
gonna
fair.
like I was trying to like spite my way through enjoying it for the sake of being like, no, I loved this game. It was great during this episode. But I genuinely just like, nah, I don't know. I don't like it. And I don't think it's anything against the game in particular, but this is a very good example of a game that's just not for me.
Yeah, you did send me a Discord message that said these kinds of games make me feel stupid, and I was looking for some
They do. They made me
elaboration
feel
on
like
that.
a fucking moron because it took me 45 minutes into the game dying to enemies, realizing that you had to equip the armor that you bought. Because when I bought the armor, I checked that it was in my inventory and I saw that it was the only thing in there. And I was like, okay, cool. It's in the armor category. That means it's probably equipped. Until, no, you have to go in there and select it.
This dude said to me, "Armor and weapons are a lie. They don't change your stats." And I'm like, "Yes, they do." And then a cylinder is typing. Couple seconds later, fuck.
Yeah, it was so that was bad. I still don't understand the combat.
How far did you get in the game?
I got about I got through like the first 2 layers and then I got sick of it and just watched somebody finish the rest of it.
The first 2 layers of the first dungeon?
Yes.
I thought you meant the first 2 layers of the mines, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair because that one sucks. Because that's the first dungeon. Uh, well, okay, let's describe the game a little bit. So Ys is, in my mind, like the canonical action JRPG.
Ys is exposition, dungeon crawl, exposition, dungeon crawl, end.
It is like the, if you ask me to like visualize what a made in Japan action RPG looks like, I just think of Ys. It is very generic. Basic. You are a swordsman who comes to this kingdom. You have to go and find the various MacGuffins, including the books of Ys, and you go through some dungeons and you fight stuff. And the first dungeon is like a set of ancient ruins. The second dungeon is a mine. You're wandering around the overworld. The last dungeon is this like big circular tower. This is from a top-down third-person perspective, by the way. And it is an action
Yep.
RPG like the original Legend of Zelda, where you have to run into enemies to damage them. So it's a bit of an interesting combat style. You also regenerate HP when you stand still, but only on the grass. But you can equip a ring to make yourself regenerate health anywhere. So it's not super difficult, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Like yes, I wouldn't call the combat difficult. But as you mentioned, it's just running into enemies. Is that really all there is to it?
Yes. Well,
Like, is it
the
really just a
re-releases.
numbers game and running into enemies?
The re-release, so you're able to equip a sword, a shield, a set of armor, and a ring. And in the
Yeah.
re-releases, you can like actually block with your shield and like have gameplay.
Okay,
In
yeah,
this
so I was gonna
one,
say, so there's gameplay.
yeah, in this one you do just run into enemies. The shield does not actually let you block; it just increases your defense.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This was released as, so if you want to play this and you don't want to play this particular old port of this,
You can
this game was
get Ys Chronicles on Steam.
it Ys Chronicles on Steam adds such revolutionary developments as characters and gameplay and story. So I would probably recommend playing that one. Um,
Yeah, I also when I first got into this, I was looking. I wanted to see how far I would get without a guide, and that lasted about 5 minutes.
yeah.
Um, because it opens the game opens up. You're on a ship. And you end up in this new place after like 5 minutes of exposition with banger music, by the way, which we're going to talk more about later.
Yeah, the intro cutscene
Um,
is.
honestly, all the cutscenes are fire. But and then this like woman comes and gets you, and she's like, "Come with me," and then you go with her. And then she's like, "There's something bad happening, but first, you need to spend $1,700 that you don't have to buy a sword, shield, and armor." So
At least it wasn't
the
twenty eight
the
hundred
game,
dollars.
yeah. So the game starts you with 1,000 coins, and you have to buy a sword, a shield, and armor. The cheapest shield, 700. Cheapest armor, I think 500. Cheapest sword, 400. Notice how there's not enough money to get all three. So you have to get a sword and armor and then go do some stuff. Now, however, there's 2 other ways that you can make
Yes.
money immediately in the beginning of the game. The first that is accessible immediately to you before even leaving the starter town, is talking to one of the guys in the bar, and then he'll be like, I lost my ring, and then if
My
you
sapphire
look
ring.
around my sapphire ring. Then if you look around a little bit more, you'll find out that the merchant is selling that a sapphire ring, and it just happens to be exactly $1,000. So I hope you didn't buy armor or a weapon before going to do this. Um, and then if you buy it back from the 1,000, you can go back to the guy in the bar, and he'll be like, "Oh, thank you," and he'll give you 1,500. So right, just a net 500 profit, easy peasy. If you do that, that's enough to buy all the equipment. Your other option is to go to a lake that you don't see if you follow the road. You have to know it's to
You
the
have to leave
south,
the
or
town
just
and go into the overworld, which has combat. So if you don't have gear to fight that, that also sucks.
yep, yep. And you have to go to this lake that is not obvious or pointed out in any way. The guide said something about sparkles. There's no sparkles. There's no visual indication of a location as to where this item would be on the lake. You just have to go into the specific spot around the edge of the lake, and bada bing, bada boom, you find a golden vase worth 2,000 gold pieces.
You know what I'm going to do one of these days? You have threatened me. You have placed the Sword of Damocles above my head. That is the rest of the Evbo cinematic universe, Evbo being the guy who does the Minecraft stuff. And you know that I don't really like those videos, and you have threatened me that at some point on this show you're going to make us go through all of them. Now, what I'm going to do is, because I know that you don't like these kinds of games with very esoteric starts, I am going to hang my own sword above your own throne, and it is going to
Oh
be the video
no.
game Xanadu, Dragon
Oh
Slayer 2.
god.
And at some point in this show, if you piss me off, if you make me watch something that I don't like, this is my answer to mutually assured destruction. I am going to make you play that video game, because however bad you think this start is, this is not nearly as esoteric as old JRPGs can get, in the sense of, like, you need to know this random thing on the map for, like, stuff you need to do, and if you don't do it, you just can't start the game. Or even worse, you might get soft locked. This is not
Uh-huh.
nearly as bad as it gets. This is extremely tame.
Oh
I just
man.
want to put that out there, just so that you feel a little less safe at night.
I do feel less safe. Good job. You've succeeded in that. Um, yeah, that's fucked up.
It is very similar to the original Legend of Zelda, which is also kind of shitty to play in the modern day if you don't have a guide. Because, I mean, the idea is it's supposed to be you play it in your free time and you're like a kid, so you have a ton of free time. Or maybe you're a really burned out adult who just wants to have their dopamine receptors activate for a longer period of time. Like, they don't
Uh-huh.
make games like this anymore. And when people talk about, oh, yellow paint, or oh, games these days are too handholdy, this is the opposite direction. Like, this
Yep.
is when you remove all guide rails, this is what you get when you get a game that doesn't want to tell the player anything and let them figure it out for themselves. You get games from this era where it's you need to know, oh, I need to click on this particular tile in order to get this particular item in order to be able to advance this quest. Um, and I think there needs to be a middle ground, and I think that playing older games is illuminating to see why some of these standards have changed.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, in the beginning, video games were like it was Nintendo that I think initially tried to bring video games to a broad audience. But a lot of niche games, especially in Japan, that weren't Nintendo, were I mean, they weren't nearly by any metric as popular as they were today. And so you were appealing to a much niche audience. Because of that, you could appeal to a specific group of people, and that specific group of people happen to be people with either enough money to buy consoles, or for people like the PC Engine Graphics Super X64, it was people that either owned a computer and knew how to use it. And that bar was a lot higher in like the 1980s than it is today.
That was a pretty major driving factor behind a lot of these games, was the fact that NEC's PC systems were pretty common along with other PC systems like the Commodore 64 or whatever. And throughout the 80s and 90s, a lot of people had these machines for business, and there became a market for people who wanted to play games on them as well. And they were usually
Uh-huh.
not as good as the console games, not as technically impressive due to system limitations. The two main markets for early video games were kids who wanted to play
Uh-huh.
in the arcade or on their consoles,
Yep, because it
And
was just another toy.
computer nerds, especially university students over in the West, like a lot of classic computer games were made by university students for university students because they were the ones who had access to computers. Later on, throughout the 80s, people started getting more and more machines for business, and then it reached a broader audience, but they still had to be reasonably tech savvy. Um, and then, of course, things have become more homogenized and more accessible. And on this podcast, we hate it when more people are able to get into a hobby because it
Yep.
does fuck it up for everyone. So
Yeah, no, because if the thing that I do isn't cool and for smart people, that means I'm not cool and smart, which is wrong,
remember, anyone less esoteric than me is a normie. Anyone more esoteric than me is a freak.
quite frankly. Real and true.
In the game's defense, I do think that the opening to like have you collect money, that's something that like Ocarina of Time does as well. Um,
I've only played one Zelda game and I played like halfway through it.
I yeah, I've not played Zelda in a long time. Um, but I do remember Ocarina of Time has you collect money to buy a sword or to buy a shield and find a sword, buy a shield. And part of the reason for that is it shows off the gameplay of the game, which is very impressive for the time. And this game doesn't really have gameplay, so it does kind of fall
Yeah.
flat to make you experience that. But anyway, Sarah, pretty hot, yay or nay?
Hmm. Oh, yay.
Yeah. There's a witch named Sarah. She wants you to find the MacGuffin. You do. You go through the mines. You run into things. You talk to a thief guy. You talk to someone's grandma who's reading you the books. It's if you've ever played a JRPG or it's that very particular blend of Western fantasy tropes and like video game tropes that a lot of JRPGs employ where it's just like a
Absolutely.
very homogenous mix that you're very familiar with if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons or experienced any of this kind of media before.
Hmm. The game does. I will say, I think the story is fine for what it is. I think it provides the exposition that a game of this caliber needs in a very entertaining and like thought out way.
It
The voice
provides
acting in
motivations for things
yeah,
to
the voice
happen.
acting in the English copy, in the English translation is good. Just quite frankly, it's just good voice acting. It doesn't feel like anything like low quality. The music, banger. Whole game, banger. Absolute, just banger after banger. Like load the game, banger. Fight an enemy, banger. Walk into a house, banger. Banger, banger, banger. That's what the soundtrack of this game is.
The only thing I remembered about this game was the intro cutscene, which I'll probably put a link to just so people can see it. It's that
It's so
intro
fire.
cutscene with that music and that pixel art. And I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen the first time I saw this.
And it genuinely was cool as fuck.
Yeah. It's a shame that it kind of goes downhill from there, but
Yeah. I will say it also the whole like framework of if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna have a hard time extends further into the kind of like gameplay as well. Because I again, maybe I'm just a moron, but I don't like that these games make me think that. Um I it was made very obvious very quickly that one of the main goals is gonna be to get to the top of the Tower of Dern or whatever it's called. Um, and so you walk around and you do that and you find out you hear this girl complain about how her dad's the mayor of some other town and he's pissy and you go and talk to him and he's like, "Okay, we're missing a silver bell. Go, the thieves took it. This is where the thieves are. Go find them." He literally says the thieves are in the mountains to the north. I walk up because that's north. Oh, rocks. This must be mountains. I go that way. I find the thieves' hut. And maybe my game was bugged, but apparently in the or either it was bugged, the guide was wrong, or this is something they didn't implement until like the remaster. But you talk to the thief, and he just goes, "We're not stinky, smelly. Fuck you. Somebody took all of our silver."
you probably were
And,
using the Ys Chronicles guide, um, because if you just look up like Ys Book 1 and 2 guide, you get the re-release one. The re-release. You don't get the one for this one.
oh my god. Um,
when I was going back through this, I had that same issue.
I do that, and I hear him say that, and I'm like, oh, silver goods, that probably includes the chalice, right? There's some deductive reasoning going on in my head there. I go talk to the little old guy outside, and he's like, oh, my guy went to the Tower of Durn, and he's dead. I'm like, oh, maybe that's not a bad place to look. Where is it? I still don't know where it is.
It's it's to the north. It's past the thieves' hut.
But you go past the thieves' hut, and the path just ends.
What you do is you go to the guy, you go to the leader of the thieves, Goban Toba, and then he is just like, "Hey, dude, you're pretty chill,"
Oh,
and
man.
he just opens the door at the back of his house, and there's like a one-way path into the tower.
What the fuck?
Yeah. In this particular, there are other like invisible things that you need to find, but I played through the beginning of this again. I did not go through the entire thing because I was busy.
Man.
There are games that I've played that I think do deserve like a full serious episode where we talk about the entire game. I don't think this game is one of them. Um, I feel like if we wanted to play this, I feel like if we wanted to talk about a game like this, we would be better off talking about just Legend of Zelda. And the reason we don't do that is because Nintendo is famously litigious, rather than
Yeah, and those
any
games are
real
far longer
preference for
than
this
3
game over
hours.
the other.
Yep.
Um, but
Actually, on that note, if we do want to do longer games in the future that are more than 3 hours, would it for the purpose of like the so our ruling, right,
yes,
is if somebody suggests something that's less than 3 hours, it's just you gotta do it. That's just
yes.
you gotta do it. If it's more than 3 hours, we both have to agree to do it. The less than 3 hours, if I was to say do like chapter one of this game, and that was only like an hour and 45 minutes. Would that fall into the
The issue, the reason why we have in the rules, the reason why we make it that you have to agree to do a video game is because with something like a movie or a TV show that has a fixed limit, that has a set amount of time that you can actually spend on it because it is just the runtime. But for books and video games, technically that is a variable amount of time, which is why we don't
yes?
like under 3 hours. It might not necessarily be under 3 hours, depending on the game and who's playing it. Like there are some games I know that I could speed run in under 3 hours, but I would not recommend them because you might take longer than that, and I won't want to comfortably say under 3 hours for some of these. Um,
Yes.
I mean, we
Like
can
like
use
this
reason.
game, if I kept going at like if I kept playing this game at the pace I was playing it at, I would not have finished in under 3 hours.
Yeah, it says on like how long to beat. This is like 8 hours long, but like if you know what you're doing, if you have the guide, it does not take that long.
If I
Um,
followed the guide like word for word and I found the right guide, like the guide video is only an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, that's what I watched.
yeah, there's a guide on game FAQs that we were looking at, but for some reason it's told in like third person past tense, where it just says Adol. Adol is the guy that you play as. It's like Adol then proceeded to go west and then north a few long flights of steps and came across yet another green door. Um,
Yeah,
just
it's
an
weird shit.
insane way to structure a video game guide, but
Mhm. But yeah, so it's not a long game by any means as far as the total content that you have to progress through to get to the end. But it is definitely not a short game in any means in the sense that fuck, dude, you know.
that and other games, even from the time period, do a better job at navigation than this one. And I think the lack of clear overall direction is a big part. Like
Yep.
I know I need to find the MacGuffin at some point, um, but I don't really know like what to do there. I'm like, here, go to this village. It's to the north. And it's like, yeah, you go to the north, you follow the trail, you're there, and they're just kind of like, I know vaguely where I need to go, but I'm just kind of poking around.
Mhm.
And the fact that I move comparatively slower and fast travel is a one-time use item, and I need to do a lot of backtracking, leads to a
Yeah, which
lot of
I found out the
confusion.
hard way.
Yeah, the world seems very small and very large. It seems very large when you need to find what you're doing, and very small if you look at it just in the broader sense of like, there's like 4 areas to this game. It's not particularly interesting to explore. I don't feel like I have the ability to just wander around and find interesting and unique things. And again, this is 1989. I'm not expecting it to have this, but I think there's also a change in mindset compared to older games that would expect you to be like drawing up maps as you went and stuff like that. I don't think this game is that kind of game either. But this is bad. This is bad line of conversation. This is
Well, no, you're right, because in a sense, I mean, like, even you're gonna hate me for this, but like earliest editions of Dungeons and Dragons, it was genuinely a core game mechanic to expect your players to draw out the map of the dungeon that they're going
why would I hate you for that? I've done that.
Okay, I thought you were just gonna yell at me for tying it back to D&D again.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we're all unfuckable version losers, whatever. But I mean, yeah, I've been playing Wizardry a lot recently, and yeah, I have my old graph paper maps that I made of exploring the fucking dungeon, with like arrows from where you teleport to one place or another that I found just by like guessing. And yeah, you used to have to do that.
I love that for you. And I think that's a lot of fun. I don't have any problem with like manually writing down and keeping track of information that I find in a game. I just think I don't maybe this is me. I don't like doing that in digital games. I like doing it in like
yeah, there's a more
tabletop games,
tactile thing to it for sure.
right? But I'm also a big fan of writing notes. Like I don't take notes on computers. I never did, and I probably never have. I've always been a big notebook, pen and paper kind of guy because I think there's just something special about tactilely recording information. You're going to remember it better if you do it that way. That's just fact.
I still write people physical letters and send them through snail mail instead of email or text. I mean, granted, it's mostly
is snail mail
like
regular mail?
Yeah, like normal mail,
like the post,
the post, as opposed to like email. But I still am in correspondence with mostly older people, but I'm still in correspondence with people through physical mail only and not through email.
Interesting. That's fun though. I've written a couple. I've written my fair share of like physical letters in the past, but it's really only
it might just be a generational thing between us. I don't know.
Well, fuck off. I think the only like letters I've written postcards. I think I've written 2 postcards in the last like 5 years, and they were both to women that I was in long distance relationships with because I was doing it as a romantic gesture and not as a means of conveying information.
Separate woman.
So this is over in the last 5 years. Yes, 2 separate women. They each got 1 postcard.
Yeah. Just checking.
Not
just checking.
Yeah, not at the same time. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. I would never do that.
Yeah. This is. It is one of those things that has a lot of aesthetic value. I think just, it is demonstrably less efficient than just writing things in email. But I do think that it helps. I prefer writing like longhand on paper because I think it helps me organize my thoughts better. And if I'm writing something like for my job, sometimes I will write it out on paper and then type it up afterwards. But just going back to the point of older styles of video games, I think that a lot of these kinds of RPGs were born out of Dungeons and Dragons and similar tabletop games. And they have they maintain some of those aspects, like expecting the player to use supplementary materials. Sometimes they would have like a manual or a booklet with other stuff that you're supposed to do in there. And I think that the demise of the physical game box has also contributed to this. Just standards have changed in general.
Absolutely.
But I do want to tie this back to the point PlayStation recently announced that future games will not be offered physically at all. They will only be digital.
Which is stupid as fuck. You don't own anything you buy anymore.
Yeah. I do appreciate that GOG has a lot of their older games. They will include extras like the soundtrack and the manual for older games, which is really convenient for playing and like Steam has a section for the manual in particular on a lot of games. And I really appreciate the ability to do that just because I enjoy supplementary materials for games a lot. I used to love
Yes.
like opening up the box and just pawing through all the little things and reading the manual. And I that is an aspect of game design that is just not even a consideration anymore unless it's for like a special
Yeah.
collector's edition. And I think that there really was not even just mechanically, oh, here's something else we can put in the manual or a little Easter egg or whatever, but just there is a sort of artistry that's lost when you don't get to. I'm trying to think of like what the point I want to make here. I think that there was something that was lost when games stopped having little extra things for you to look through and just go like, oh, that's cool, that's neat. In addition
100%.
to the
And
mechanical bonuses of doing so.
yeah, I think it's also like it has a lot to do with the fact that the requirements for those supplementaries have been completely supplemented by, well, ironically, so they've been supplemented by the existence of things like wikis
I mean, yeah, for
and like
sure.
online player resource materials. But it also kind of doubles into the like people that produce games are using the lack of requirement of those things as an excuse to make it so you don't own the media that you purchase anymore. And there's definitely like I think it's scummy. I think it's incredibly scummy. Yeah.
This thing that we were talking about was more common for slower paced RPGs like dungeon crawlers. It would not have been something that was expected for an action RPG like this. You might have been expected to keep like a journal or like a little thing of notes for quests, which is again something that is mostly in the game itself now. A lot of modern video games just have a journal or quest marker in the game, but you might have been
Mhm.
expected to keep track of this on the side. But there's no point to what I was saying. I'm gonna cut this whole thing. Um, Yeah, I think that the specifically note taking was more common for slower paced RPGs and an action RPG like this, but I think the point that I wanted to try and make was we are looking at this, we are emulating this, we are not playing this on original hardware.
Yep.
I
Oh
used
god, and using the D-pad controllers on my Xbox controller was a joy.
I think there was a very tactile sense to older games that expected you
Uh-huh.
to they were very self-contained, but they expected you this is not a good point. I'm cutting this. The point I was trying to
No,
make.
I think you're right. Older games, I think you summed it up with that one word like perfectly. Older games were self-contained because they had to be. And that's not a thing anymore. The internet has completely destroyed the need for self-contained media.
Self-contained in the sense that it
Um
was just how you interacted with it rather than interacting with it with other
Yeah, it
people.
was all up to like your interpretation, your interaction, and your experience with the item that you purchased. It's just it's not like that anymore.
Yeah. I think that there's only a few games I've played recently that have really given me the sense of you need to like look around, you need to sit down and just experiment with this. And it makes sense for you to just keep track of things either in your head or with notes and just like literally learn this game. I think that's something that's still common for roguelikes, assuming that you deliberately don't seek out online information. You do sort of
Yes.
learn with each failure in a roguelike game. You learn more about how the game itself works, and you keep that knowledge with you as you go on to another run. I think Noida does this pretty well because that's a game that,
I was gonna
yeah,
say Noida if you didn't.
Noida famously has lots of Easter eggs and secrets, but
Big Noida fan.
and I've been playing this game
That is a
called
great
Barony a
game.
lot recently, which
Oh my god, that game is a nightmare. Oh, that checks out. One of my friends really likes Barony. He likes it. He's one of those guys that like I want to play this game with you guys, and we'll just buy 4 copies of the game,
yeah, it's
and then gift it to us. So we're like morally obligated to play it with him at least once. And usually they're good picks, but sometimes they're games like Barony.
I wouldn't even say Barony is really a friend slop style game. I think it is perfectly serviceable on your own. There's some
Oh,
games like
100%.
I played a game called V Rising, which is kind of a
The vampire game.
kind of a Diablo clone.
I
It's got some crafting,
Yes.
but you really do need to play. That one is not very fun on your own. It is kind of weighted towards playing with other people.
It is, yes, it is designed to be played with multiple people. I liked V Rising. I played it around when it first came out with one of my friends, and I actually did play on my own quite a fair bit, and it's one of those games that's, like, initially designed and balanced around being multiplayer, but you can play it single player. You just kinda have to tweak the settings a little bit and, like, up the modifiers. Yeah, so it's not unbearably slow. Yeah, otherwise you're just gonna be, like it just effectively becomes a mobile game where you're sitting and waiting for things to
Yeah, it's just a
happen.
it removes some of the grind, which is helpful.
Yep,
I
yeah.
We're not even talking about this. We're just talking about video games in general at this point.
No, we're doing the same thing we do every time we, like, review a piece of media that we don't like. We just start talking about stuff similar to it because we don't wanna talk about the thing we reviewed anymore.
I think it kind of gets into a broader question about just tropes in like TTRPGs as well, where they're very helpful to just quickly set up um, like a plot, which is fun if you just want to sit down and play. But I think they do cheapen the story. So I guess what's your sort of, you've mentioned your own like world building stuff. What is your opinion on using tropes as a shorthand to just quickly get people into the action versus spending more time like building up your own world and getting other people like interested in this thing you've created?
I think it's, well, quite frankly, I think it's basically a requirement, and I think if you say that you don't do that, you're lying. Because if you try and say this my content is completely original and trope free, I think you're just lying to yourself and your players, and that's scummy and dishonest. Because nothing is original. Nothing is ever original, and nothing ever will be, and nothing ever has been. And trying to pretend like it is, I think, is immature and irresponsible, and just dishonest. Now, there's also a big difference between literally going, well, actually, I don't know, because I think using tropes
Can I give you examples?
is
Can I give you
is
an example of
fine.
what I was asking?
Yeah, but I think using tropes is fine if you use them in an original way.
Like the classic D&D setup is like oh my god, like you're some adventurers in a tavern and some goblins have raided our town. Can you go and hunt them down or whatever? And it's just like kill the goblins for 50 XP or whatever. Versus spending more time like creating an original setup and like trying to get people into it. Uh, Especially in like a TTRPG setting, that can work really well if you have a group that's already into it. But if you're just trying to like sit down and play a game of D&D with maybe you don't know everyone at the table beforehand, using tropes as a way to just get people hooked on it is much faster and easier and comparatively lower risk. Because you can just say, oh, yeah, this is a scenario that you know if you've hung
Yeah,
around fantasy media for any length of time. It's one of those things you don't realize the first time you ever found it, like this generic setup or like adventures in a tavern or whatever, but it's just you know it and you can use that to just get people into it. I think that the
mhm.
reason I bring this up is because this game makes use of a lot of those tropes because it's just trying to get you into the action and playing the game. It's not trying to have like a good story. And I'm wondering what your opinions. I think there's a place for that kind of game versus like a I'm creating a crazy original lore thing. I think there's those games have a place as like if the gameplay is good enough, I just want to hop in and play the game.
I think uh I think specifically for TTRPGs that there's nothing wrong with it in a sense because there's a big difference
Yeah,
between
we're
like
mixing media here.
in a video game that uses a video game that uses tropes, like that really heavily leans into this is what you're doing, you've seen this before, you know exactly what's going to come next, and you play through it in a video game. I think there's a difference between that and doing so in like a TTRPG setting because I think people get an inherent amount of joy from like experiencing a well-known trope firsthand and going through it in like a role play setting with their friends because if you're the guy like if people that like the setting.
It's Lost Mine of Fandelver.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's if you like the setting and you like the like framework that you're playing in, then you like the tropes because they're what define those frameworks. And if you aren't familiar with the framework and maybe you're not the hugest fan of like the setting that you're playing in, you're still going to be familiar with those tropes because they're more or less universal. I think for an introductory tool, they're perfect, but leaning on them too much in the same way that leaning on anything too much, it'll end up turning into more of a crutch.
You probably know this if you're listening to this, but the like starter module for Dungeons and Dragons for a long time was an adventure called Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is again very the goblins have raided us, and then we're going into a dungeon to fight an evil wizard, which is like two of I think the most classic like fantasy game tropes I can possibly think of.
Mm,
But it's done well, and it's a good way to get people into D&D. I think it's a good like introductory tool, like you said. I would argue that there is a place for games, probably not this game because this game is not super fun to play, but if you have a game with very interesting gameplay, which I enjoy Barony. I know that you probably don't, but I have been enjoying Barony quite a bit. That game has very like tropey. It's a not super crazy. It's not a super crazy fantasy world. Um,
yeah, it's just a
it makes
dungeon.
use of a lot of very classic setups. But it doesn't really need to because the gameplay is the focus. The roguelike gameplay, the exploring, being able to like modify your equipment and doing this sort of thing. Like that's what it wants to get you into. It's a roguelike. The focus is on the gameplay rather than the story. And I think that there is a place for that kind of setup, even as a non-introductory tool, just as a let's just get you started. And I think that's just getting into a more general discussion of how important should the story be in a video game in general. But
Yeah. And then I guess tying it back to like the game itself, is it a, even appropriate to call the tools that Ys uses the usage of a trope when the game came out so long ago that it very possible that it was part of what made those behaviors a trope.
there's a little bit of like Seinfeld fallacy in that one where such a I don't think this is a foundational piece of media, but it's imitating other very foundational pieces of media, and importantly it's imitating them very close to when they came out.
Yeah,
I think that there's definitely an argument for that too. I was thinking more about in the modern day, if you're creating something, is it all right to
sure.
use essentially like stock characters or stock setups just to get people into it? And that's something that media for a long time has done. I mean, a lot of theater for the longest time was making use of very common tropes and setups that the audience would have already been familiar with as sort of a shorthand and making, maybe meta jokes about them or, like they're assuming a cultural basis for this. And I guess the point I'm really trying to make is that no, I'm not going to finish that joke. I was going to make a joke about the MCU, but I don't want to.
Like
It's
the Marvel or the FBO?
the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was going to
Okay.
make a joke about how comic book characters are basically modern day stock characters
Oh my
because they
god.
keep getting rebooted and multiversed and all this stuff in a way that only makes sense if you're already familiar with them.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's not really a editor cut this bit.
Editor cut this bit.
Editor twist his balls
Fantastic.
off.
Jarvis, take this guy's balls.
I think we should talk about. I've been talking too much. You talk about something else for like 5 minutes, and then we'll end this.
Yeah? How
Yeah.
how long have we been recording for?
Like 40, 57 minutes. Oh wow, that's longer than I thought. Last time I checked, it was 32.
Wow. Well, I
I've been
guess we
mon-
haven't okay, we haven't really
I'm gonna cut
talked.
out my monologues. This is gonna be shorter.
Sure. We haven't really talked about the one thing that I did genuinely enjoy a lot in this game, and that was the music. I
Yes.
think the like we mentioned the opening cutscene and how it was just kind of gives a very wow, that's awesome kind of feel. And I think like the music is very classic old game in the sense that like each different scene has its own track and the track is like a couple minutes long and it just like fades out and then loops and fades back
Do do
in.
do 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 do.
Right? But
Do
it's
do
like
do do do
it's
do do
just
do
it's a
do do do
good
do.
track. Like
It's all
it's
right.
fun to listen to. Like while literally I was doing that the entire time I was playing. Just like doing to myself the whole time. And that's what kept me going for as long as I did, even though I only got like a quarter of the way into the game, if even.
I think that the
Um
most notable aspect to me was not the music, but rather the pixel art.
the
Because I
pixel art
think,
was good when it gave the close-ups,
yeah,
because
like the
it
close-ups and
definitely has
the portraits.
the old like 8-bit problem of we can only have so many pixels on the screen, so when the character needs to be small they have to be like literally an 8x4 sprite, and so it's like you get 10 colors to work with total, um and such, and then you blow it up to chat box screen level of details, and then you just get the very awe inducing like wow effect of that's what they actually look like, and the art's really good.
Yeah, I was playing this game in 4K, which I don't think it was ever meant to be played in. Uh,
You had more pixels in each
yeah,
like game pixel. You had more screen pixels per game pixel than the original like
had screen
monitors
pixels. Yeah,
had screen pixels.
yeah. There's definitely. I think that well-made pixel art is just timeless, and I think that the actual like overworld art is not great, but it's still got a pleasing color palette, and really just the intro art I think is what I remember the most.
Oh yeah.
Um, this and what was the other game I really Popful Mail? No. There's another game that I played around the time that I played this for the first time. That was also a port of a PC-88 game. Anyway, those games had pretty good pixel art because the console they were on, the machine that those games were originally for, the PC-88, could not refresh as quickly as the consoles of the time, which made it difficult to make action-based games on there. Uh, but it had a much broader array of colors and a much larger screen size than comparable consoles like the NES or the Super Nintendo. So it was able to actually have better art and display more on there, and that's a lot of times what games on that system pushed, especially for the PC-98. The upgrade that came out later, they were really pushing for like better art and design over necessarily trying to make like a super fast-paced like fighting game or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, all in all, it's the game is it's quite frankly a product of its time, and regardless of what you think of the game, it opens up some very interesting discussions for how those times have changed in the almost 40 years since the game is released.
God damn, you're right. Yeah. 1980. Well, the original game came out in 1987, so it has been 39 years since
Yeah.
the first Ys on its original platform came out.
So video games are old as shit. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, things change, and sometimes change is scary. But if you're strong enough,
We need a
if you're
tagline for the center for the we need a subtitle and we need like a center image for this episode. And I don't think we've found like a good bit to latch onto like we did last time.
can we do change is scary, and then it's just the like a screenshot of the main character pulling the stupid fucking vase from the thing? Or oh no, it's got to be
How about we
Pim.
do
It's got to
change is
be Pim.
scary
Change is scary with Pim,
with Pim?
the merchant.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Pim from Smiling Friends for a
No, this
second.
guy. Remember
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the image that I sent? This is gonna be the video thumbnail.
Yeah, wide merchant. Yeah, yeah. I can see wide merchant.
Hmm. Yeah, wide merchant with the text overlay. Change is scary.
No, no. The change is scary is going to be the subtitle. It's going to be like here. I can do
Oh,
this.
in the Grinch
How about I
font.
do this real quick while you why don't you explain to us our rating system?
Oh my god, yeah, we still have to do that. Okay, so for those of you that, are new here, which why? Do you think anybody's ever actually made it this far into an episode?
I think our average I can check YouTube analytics, but I think our average watch time is like 30 seconds.
That's Oh, that's great. That's
And that's probably bumped up by the few times that I've like left it on in the background while I've been doing other stuff. So
oh man. Um okay, so for anybody listening, we have a little thing that we like to do here where we rank a piece of media. And you may be wondering, how do we do that? Oh, it's perfect. And so we do this on a scale. We give it two individual ratings. We rank it on how neo-isomorphic it is, or how well it embodies the tenets of neo-isomorphism as a philosophy, and we rank that on a scale of 1 to 4. We then rank it on its relatability, which does not need further explanation, on a scale of -1 to -4. We then add those two ratings together, and the overall quality of the score is how close it is to 0. Because if you have 0, that means the negative and the positive ratings are the same, and as far as their absolute value goes, and then there's theory of like a one-to-one correspondence between the two, and it's perfectly isomorphic. But so how scale 1 to 4, how neo-isomorphic do we think this was?
I remember this game being a lot better than it was, and it is like aggressively 4 out of 10. I think so. On the neo-isomorphic scale, I think that would translate to like a 1.
Aggressively 4 out of 10. Yeah,
This is the
I
perfect, like, you get this for Christmas and you play it and you enjoy it and you think nothing of it later on.
yeah, I don't hate the idea of giving this a 1. I'm not going to bother to try and persuade in a
There
different
is much
direction.
less. I thought there was much more here than there actually is. There is, yeah. On the relatability scale, I I struggle to give this anything more than a -1, but that would mean that this game has a score of 0, and I
Well,
don't want
well,
to be
hang on,
responsible for
hang
that.
on, hang on, because I think I think we've been doing this in the last couple of episodes, and I think there's an inherent flaw with how we use our rating system. I think we need to independently, non-biased, based on what we know the end result is going to be, give it both of its ratings, and then whatever the culmination of those ratings comes to
Okay, yeah.
naturally is the final score. That's what neo-isomorphism is about.
I have difficulty giving this anything less than a -1. Um,
Me too. Because let's be so for real. The only things that are truly neo-isomorphic are things that are so utterly shitty that they're not relatable and bad, or peak content, like Parkour Civilization.
didn't we give like the man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot a 0? Or is
Yeah, because it was dog shit,
I no? I
and we
think we gave
hated
one
it.
of the. I think we've only given a 0 in like the first 10 episodes and like never again.
Mm, I think you're right. No, didn't we have a 4 and a -4?
The man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot was a 1 and a -1, so that was a 0. But I think that's the most recent one.
Okay, okay. Because
I
the highest otherwise, we had like a 4 and a -3, right? I think that was Parkour Civilization.
Yeah, Parkour
Or
Civilization was a 4 on Neo-Isomorphous, -1 on relatability.
right, so it was actually trash.
Yeah. And Romeo and Juliet was 4 and -2 on relatability.
Yeah, that checks out. I don't think I can give this anything higher than a -1 for relatability. I'm not Japanese. I'm not made of pixels. I don't have a sword. I have more money than this guy does. So yeah, no, it's not relatable at all. Whatever is in my oh my god, I lost so much money today.
Yeah, your stock market.
Dude, it's so bad. Um, we're putting it all on Spain to win the World Cup.
This is a. I have not been. I've been so pissed off. I have not been following the World Cup, but everyone else just won't shut up about it, and I just want them to shut up about it because I
I
don't
think
care
you
about
should
it.
just follow it. I
I
think it's
don't care about
interesting.
it, so nobody. I don't want anyone else to waste my time with it. I don't understand how people
Well,
have.
I mean, you know me. When do I ever talk about sports? I don't like it because it's soccer. I like the idea of multiple countries going against each other. I think that's what's fun about it.
I don't understand why people have different interests than I do, because clearly I'm the only one who matters. So
Okay, okay, buddy.
That was the bit. That was the angle that we were going for. Um, this is we're fading fast. What are we doing next week?
Oh shit. Hang on. What are we doing next week?
We're reviewing each other's bank accounts. We're doing an. How
We audit each
neo-isomorphist
other.
and how relatable is it?
We audit.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of my ledger, and you can look over it and just like rate my
Uh,
expenses.
oh my god. That's great. Fuck. Oh my god. Hang on, I didn't prepare this at all. It's okay. I can come up with something really quick.
We do Xanadu
Oh my god.
1980
Wait.
whatever.
Do you know Styropyro?
I've heard the name before. Hold on a second.
Okay, good. That means you haven't seen this video. Okay, we're gonna watch.
400 car batteries wired together.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna watch.
1 hour,
That is-
59 minutes, 53 seconds. It's
That is
legal.
the video I was gonna point you to.
I just looked up. Is this the guy who has like the medically high testosterone that you were telling me about?
Yes.
That's how I know this guy. Yeah, you're telling me this guy has like super high testosterone levels.
Yeah. Like, hang on. Testosterone versus IQ meme.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was wondering how long it would take for us to start discussing IQ on this podcast.
well, here, this is the meme, and every time it gets posted, everybody's like, "That's Styropyro."
Yeah.
Who's? I want to meet the man with 109, like 170 IQ and unreasonable levels of testosterone. God bless modern medicine. Well, that's all for today, folks. And remember, kids, eat your vegetables.
And drive safe.
That's a stupid fucking bit. Why do we keep doing it?